Hi, I'm Russ Stoddard, and for today's Changemaker interview, we're here with Bryan Papé, the CEO and founder of MiiR. How you doing, man?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on.
Oh, absolutely. Say, dude, before we start here, I hear we both have femur stories, although yours ends up with creating a social enterprise. So why don't you tell me a little bit about how your near-death experience actually led you to create a social enterprise?
Yeah, I had a pretty interesting change of life events in 2006. It was actually tax day, April 15th, 2006. And I was skiing for a local mountain, Stevens Pass, making a film for them, did a bunch of marketing there. And we were skiing on the front side. And when I skied, I didn't have poles. So I had my camera under my jacket and kind of took a bad turn in some trees and ended up wrapping my right leg around a big pine tree and broke my femur right in half. And, I think ignorance is bliss. It would have been great if I would not have known what happens when you break your femur. But unfortunately, my roommate had done something similar a couple years earlier while snowboarding. He broke his femur, went to the hospital, everything was okay. But he came back from that and said, "Hey, Bryan, never break your femur. You can bleed to death internally in about 10 minutes. And so that was always, kind of a little tidbit of information I never wanted to realize. But unfortunately, I was against this tree and my leg was broken in half. And I sat there against this tree thinking, oh my gosh, I could literally die in the next 10 or 15 minutes. So I had a very clarifying moment in 2006.
All right on. And so you created MiiR. So why don't you tell us a little bit about your business model for MiiR?
Yeah. So I started the brand in 2010. And so kind of that accident happened in 2006. And there were two things that happened from that. The first, it took me breaking my leg to realize I should marry this woman. So she must have saw something in me that made her hang on. So a year later, we got married. We've been married 10 years this summer, or it'll be 11 years, I guess, this summer. And have a beautiful 2-year-old little daughter and one on the way. So that was a good decision, a good choice that came out of the accident. And then the second thing I thought about was, what would people say about me at my funeral? And that really just cut to the core of who I was. I realized that nobody would have got up at my funeral and said anything positive about me or me influencing my community in a positive way, or the people I'd impacted. There would be none of that. There would be talk about how it was funny. I put a Volkswagen Beetle on top of Capitol High School as their senior prank. Like, that was me. And so really I wanted to change that. And I'd always kind of in my head had this idea of merging business and philanthropy. And so I grew up with my grandfather, admiring my grandfather who had started this family run company. He built it up fairly big. It's still a family held company today. And unfortunately, he passed away in 96. And in 97, my grandma started a foundation in his honor. And so at a fairly early age, I was involved in the family foundation, granting money to various communities that we all lived in. And while my grandfather was generous during his lifetime, he kind of missed out on that later in life generosity of being able to grant away some of the wealth that he had been able to make. And so I always thought, what if you don't make it to the end of your life? Are you able to give day in and day out? And so really that concept of merging business and philanthropy is kind of what MiiR is today. So MiiR is, we call ourselves a product to project company. And what that means is every MiiR product that we sell funds a trackable giving project around the world. So we effectively give 3% of our revenue towards our nonprofit charity partners. And what's cool is every single one of our products has a give code on the bottom of it. And if you register that code on our website, you get to see the location of our giving projects, GPS coordinates, photos, stories from the field. Sometimes there's cool VR experiences. Sometimes there's longer films depending on the active project. But we're all about being transparent. So that's what we do today. We sell our product online in our store in Seattle. We have a flagship store. We sell it REI, Patagonia, Amazon, Blue Bottle Coffee, Stumptown Coffee, a lot of retailers around the world.
Oh, that's fantastic, man. So you got a little bit of your giving spirit from your grandfather. What life lessons did you get from your mother and father?
Yeah, that's, I think from my mom specifically, I don't know if it was just if I was born this way or if she kind of instilled it or reinforced it. But I remember from probably a very early age, she'd always say, "That's very observant of you, Bryan." So I don't know if she was reinforcing my habit of being observant, but I always remember like connecting the dots or just kind of observing things and kind of reporting back to her, oh, that's, this goes with that. Or, I mean, just things like, oh, that car is the same as our car. And, that's a very, very early stage concept. And it's, most kids are like that. But I remember my mom reinforcing that with me. And I think today that's one of my superpowers is being able to kind of observe the market and see what's popular, what's not popular, what's missing, that could potentially be a product fit for our company. So I learned kind of how to be observant and to just kind of scan whether it's a room, a market, an area, a customer of what needs to happen next. So learned that kind of from my mom, reinforced by my mom. And then, my parents both kind of instilled a work ethic in me. And now that I have kids, I'm trying to understand how do you do that without forcing them to do things? Because oftentimes you have to kind of inspire or lead your kids to do things. You can't just tell them to do something and do it. A little bit of reverse psychology there. And so, I had to work for everything. So while I had an allowance, I certainly had to like mow the lawn and do those sort of chores. I specifically remember before I went off to school, to college in Seattle, I had the most disastrous summer ever. We built this pirate ship or raft to go float the Boise River with my friends and I. And so we built this really cool plywood, 55-gallon barrel drum strapped to it. We had a pirate flag. We had water balloons and super soakers. And it was just, guys being just dumb kids on the river. And we had all my dad's tools strapped into the cooler. And, probably a couple $100 worth, maybe, probably $500 worth of tools. Got to the end of the river. We pull out of Morrison Park. Unfortunately, the raft flipped over. All the tools spilled out. So I had to, my dad said, well, you gotta buy me new tools. So I had to buy my dad all new tools. And later that summer, I broke the lawnmower and he said, you got to get it fixed. And I was like, Dad, there's a cheaper lawnmower at Home Depot that's brand new. And he goes, I don't care. You got to fix the one that you broke. So I had to take it to a lawnmower repair shop. And on the way to the lawnmower repair shop in the back of the Suburban, I had to secure the lawnmower and the lawnmower went flying out the back window of the Suburban. So then I had to get the Suburban window fixed. And so all these things kind of added up. And I had to spend money that I was earning filming weddings. I was filming weddings at the time to make money. And I had to just funnel that money right back into fixing all the things that I caused. But I think it made me appreciate, not only working, but taking care of things, being responsible. So that story, while it was painful in the moment, I think it'll stick with me the rest of my life.
Oh, well, dude, what a couple of spectacular gifts your parents gave you, the superpowers of observation and hard work. You can't get by as an entrepreneur without those.
Yeah, they've come in handy for sure.
Oh, for sure. So 3% of top line revenue, that's pretty rad, man, and not necessarily easy to do. How did you come up with 3%?
Yeah, our giving has evolved over the last 8+ years as a company. We started off by giving $1 for every bottle that we sold to clean water. And that was about 5 to 10% of our revenue, depending on whether we sold it on our website or we sold it at wholesale. So like a good example is, a $20 bottle retail. If we're selling to a wholesale partner, it's keystoned or half. So we would sell it for $10. So if we were giving $1 for every $10 bottle, you're effectively giving 10% of your revenue. So we kind of committed to this dollar, and then we're like, well, if we're going to sell a bunch of the wholesale, is that sustainable? And then we started selling bikes from this crazy idea I had to sell bikes and to help give bikes away. So we kind of averaged out. We were giving about 5% of revenue across all of our product categories. So we tried that. We're like, all right, let's just commit to 5% of everything that we sell. We're going to do that. And so we did that for several years, became profitable, but we really felt kind of pinched on being able to pay our employees more and offer benefits. And so, it was theoretically possible, and we had proved the model that you could do that early on in our company. But we kind of had a really serious conversation about, what is the responsible amount for a company to give? Is it 1% of revenue? A lot of companies, well, I wouldn't say a lot. I'd say some people who give 1% of revenue is a lot. We wanted to, I guess, challenge ourselves a little bit more. We felt like going from 5 to 3, we'd try that out first. And one of our great advisors, Dennis Madsen, who's the former CEO of REI, started as stock boy, became the CEO, and helped grow dozens and dozens of their stores over the last 20 years. And he, I'll never forget, he said to me, Bryan, if you don't take care of your employees, you won't have a company to be able to give anything away. And that really struck me. So while it was great that we could give 5% of revenue, I also learned that we need to be able to pay our employees more. We need to be able to offer benefits. Today, we now cover 100% of medical, dental, vision for our employees. We're working towards 401ks, things of that nature. So it's kind of this laddered approach to offering more for our employees, and really making sure that we're empowering our own workforce, not just granting money to nonprofits around the world. So that's kind of how we got to 3%, kind of a long, convoluted way. But the thing that's always been consistent is us being transparent, investing in really durable, sustainable giving projects around the world. And, I'd love to say that it'll stay at 3% for years to come. It might go up, it might go down. But the one thing I know is we'll always be transparent with our customers and have meaningful, impactful work. So.
Right on, right on. Well, it's time for a little shameless plug.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. One of our people went to the Conscious Companies Women's Leadership Forum and came back with that. Everybody's a huge fan. You got started in sustainable water bottles. What do you think is the future of sustainable water bottles? Where do you see it going?
Yeah, it's a great question. We're always experimenting around with, what is the recyclability of stainless steel? Can we pull in more recycled content? Same thing with plastic. I'd love to be able to pull in more recycled plastic. You get into things with the FDA and food, anytime food or beverage touches plastic. And so there's this great company called Borreo, where they're taking recycled fish nets and then turning it out into pellets that can be put into injection molded things. So they make like skateboards and, components for different products and, like zipper pulls and whatnot. And so, we'd love to work with them on something. We just have to get over that FDA certification for recycled plastic. So I think a lot of recyclability in the future. I think really the big opportunity is, it's not necessarily us taking business from our competitors or them taking business from us. It's really how do we get the world and people around us to stop using single serving water bottles. I mean, that's the biggest challenge that we're up against. And so it's not, while there is innovation and opportunity within the stainless and reusability market, how do we break that habit of using single serving bottled water that, the amount of resources gets wasted shipping water to the source, to the store, to the customer. The plastic, a lot of those plastic bottles aren't recycled. They end up in the landfill or they end up in our oceans. Same thing with straws. So how do we change the consumer's mindset into reusability?
Well, you've been at this for a while now. Have you seen even just a little bit of a teeny change in consumer behavior there?
I'm usually an optimist, and this part for me is just the signs of hope. I'm more of a personal responsibility guy, but seeing cities step up and actually ban plastic shopping bags. I'd love to say that consumers would do it on their own, but clearly we've proven that we haven't been able to get away from that habit. So to see cities, say we're not going to allow this, all the way to Hawaii, where you go into a grocery store and retailers like Walmart aren't even serving plastic bags because the city or the state has mandated that they can't be there because it's harming the environment. Those are kind of the signs of hope. Anecdotally, just you look around and there's so much waste in plastic. So I want to say that there's improvements being made, but so far it's not looking good.
Well, we'll just have to hold out hope for it. Hey,
Yep.
I know you're a certified B Corporation, as is our company. What made you choose to become a B Corp?
Yeah, we, Andy at B Corp Labs, he had approached us at a trade show and said, "Hey, I think you guys would be a perfect fit for applying to be a B Corp." And, I actually put him off quite a bit. I was like, hey, Andy, we already give. We're transparent about our giving. There's this cool code. You register it. We show you how many dollars, we show you everything, so we're already transparent. He's like, yeah, but we're a third party and it goes through, supply chain and customers and resources and just a little bit more in depth. And I was like, okay, maybe we'll get to it. And so eventually he kind of wore me down, and I'm so thankful he did. So he wore us down, and this is 2012, 2013 when we first became a B Corp. So there's still a lot to be learned about it in the marketplace, but this is, 4 or 5 years ago where it was very unknown. But I'm thankful we signed up for it. We love competing in the marketplace. And I think the B Corp model is fantastic because as other companies become a B Corp, there's kind of this bar that gets raised every year where we're competing on our score. We're trying to improve our own business practices. We call out other companies that aren't B Corps with some of our partners, so it's a way to compete in the marketplace and also just to improve your own business practices. So I'm a big fan.
Yeah, absolutely. I think if you've talked about being very competitive, and that's the gamification of the B Corp, where it gives you a number every 2 years. I know that we're always looking like to say, hey, let's get better than we were last time and become a better business as a result.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So what's the biggest challenge do you think social enterprise model faces?
I think the biggest challenge is one of the biggest challenges for social enterprises is the fact that, I don't know if it's awareness, but there's so many competitive advantages of social enterprise that it's kind of mind-boggling that more people don't embrace it. And so, there's always tools, and it's not easy. Something has to give, whether it's, shareholders having more money at the end of the day. But if it's so myopic, just go, oh, well, we're not going to get as much money at the end of the day. Well, if your company shrinks or your company's stagnant, then you get that slice of a pie. But if your company's able to grow and you have a smaller piece, the same piece of the pie, it's better for shareholders to embrace some of these concepts in social enterprise, whether that's caring for the environment, your employees, people outside your circle of influence. So I think the biggest challenge is how do we get more people to embrace it and understand that while it sounds like it costs more, it actually helps increase the business. It makes you more competitive, I think, in the marketplace. So, awareness is part of it. Yeah. What do you think?
Oh, what do I think? The biggest challenge is, like anything that's really worthwhile, is it's hard as hell. There's more things that you have to think about. You have to think about your employees in a different way, not as a fungible resource to be used up, but one to be nurtured for the long term. You have to think about your governments, your community, your supply chain. But you're right, all this extra thought and work makes you far more competitive and sustainable for the long term. And I think that's why, a guy like Larry Fink of BlackRock is writing a letter to his CEO saying, hey, you guys need to get with the program here. You're going to not be competitive in the long term. Society is going to revoke your implied license to operate if you don't get on board.
Yeah, that was a big statement this year, wasn't it?
Dude, it's coming together this year. I don't think I've seen the forces quite converge like they are right now. It's everything from people who are looking to get a job, wanting to have an employer whose values matches up with theirs. It's consumers starting to be a little bit more discerning about where they're going to invest their dollars and their loyalty. And then that big hammer is where all of a sudden the investors are starting to come in and looking at it as saying, like, you need to actually minimize your risk. And this is one model for doing that.
Totally.
Absolutely. So here's a question for you, a little bit off the pack. You started earlier by saying you were sitting under that tree at Stevens Pass and you're thinking about your funeral a little bit.
Yep.
So here's a question for you. At your funeral, what song would you like to have played that people would remember you by?
Ooh, that's a good question. Oh man, what song? I mean, you don't want to botch this one because there's so many good songs out there. But you got
a long life ahead of you.
I know, but I'm going to be held accountable. This one's going to be dug up in whenever it happens that I'm not on this earth anymore. So they're going to be like, Bryan said on this one podcast that he wanted to, so quickly witty. I'm like, something about Journey, wheel in the sky or so,
Journey. Now that might definitely be held against you.
Yeah, exactly. Man, I think there's a bunch of songs out there. I think, I'd probably have to go kind of in the kind of the Coldplay realm. Something in that area, Viva La Vida or something just like epic. Like you listen to it, you just want to dance. Like I don't want people to be sad when I pass away. I want people to like have a party and dance.
Right on.
So man, I feel like I'm evading the question, but
That's good.
you know,
Well,
actually, the other one that I'd have right now is Justin Timberlake, "Can't Stop the Feeling,"
oh,
only
awesome.
because it's like my daughter's favorite song to dance to in the kitchen, and so I would just hope that she's dancing to that song at my funeral.
Oh, cool, man. So what does MiiR stand for? How did you come up with the name for the company?
Yeah, great question. So MiiR is really kind of derived from a couple things. First, John Muir, the environmentalist who helped develop the national park system with the FDR back in the day. His is spelled MUIR. I dropped the U, added an I to make it unique in kind of the trademark world. So MiiR was unique. It was different. There was an open space from a trademark perspective. So we've been able to get the trademark internationally pretty easily. MiiR.com was available for purchase at the time in 2009, so that was a bonus. And then MiiR, MiR, in Eastern European languages means world or peace. And so we thought those are kind of two, they're not explicit values within our company, but just, that those feelings, being evoked from the name are things that we support and stand for. We're a very global brand. If there's peace on earth, we'd certainly have an easier time getting people clean water.
Awesome. That's a good segue to the next question, which is, when I started in business, kindness really wasn't spoken about in the corporate boardrooms. What role does kindness have in business today?
Yeah, I think it's just a matter of like human decency. And I think in the past, there's kind of been this notion that, business is this dog eat dog, super aggressive, knows like basically take everything for yourself. And so I think kindness really holds, it's almost like mandatory, there's, cause I think with kindness also you can be stern, you can be fair, you can be kind. It's not like you can't run a successful company or a business and not be kind and just a decent human. And so I think it plays a huge role for companies and individuals to treat. It kind of goes along of respect, right? Like respect is one of our core values at MiiR. And, if you're respectful towards somebody, if you're kind towards one another, they're not in opposition of business.
Yeah, wholeheartedly agreed on that one, Bryan. At MiiR, you guys are very, very transparent. You do a great job of tracking your impacts. What's the number one trackable impact that you want to make in 2018?
Yeah, I think I'm really excited for one of our upcoming giving projects this summer. We're kind of breaking out into the food space. So we have food canisters, we have some additional products in kind of the food lane. We've polled our customers and we've done some digging on clean water is immensely important internationally. Domestically, it's a little bit less of a challenge. And we know that there's a connection between our products and our customers and local giving as well. And we always, we've granted to the Boise Bicycle Project. We'll continue to grant to them because they're just one of our favorite nonprofits that we've funded almost since day one at MiiR. And we're moving to this food sector, and we're tracking a new giving project coming out in, I believe it's June, at a farm up in the Skagit Valley to help basically it's like a farming university, and they have water rights, but they don't have a well. And so we're actually drilling a well in the US, but for irrigation to help grow food. So pretty excited about that one, that our transition into food as a giving lane for MiiR is actually starting with a well. So kind of a fun little segue into that market.
Oh, that's awesome, man. One of the things I absolutely love about your company is that the question that pervades all the work there, which is how can I help? It's rare to see a company that revolves around a question like that. So I'll ask you, how can I or others out there in the world be of help to you and MiiR and your mission?
Well, I appreciate that. It's hard as a for-profit consumer product company. I have to just say, if you need a bottle or a mug, we'd love for you to purchase one from MiiR.com or any of our partners. Go into a Patagonia store and check them out because there's impact there. But I also want people who do buy product to follow the story and hopefully be inspired to do good around the world. And I also want people just helping others will help us. And what I mean by that is I don't want people to assume that the only way they can help out in the world is to buy more shit. Like you probably don't need a bottle. We'd love for you to buy a bottle. If you don't, just go out and do something good, whether it's your neighbor, your community, just hopefully our business model in of itself can inspire you and people around you to go out and, whether it's, lending a hand, a dollar, whatever it is, like that's how the world changes, is by individual actions. And we're certainly doing that on every transaction. So, if you do buy from us, we will put the money to good work. So more doing around the community.
All right on. Well, that's awesome. I'll probably end up with a wrap on that, a little more shameless promotion there. You heard it here. One of the ways that you can help add meaning to your life and create social impact in the world is to buy MiiR products. And even more than that, just make certain that you use single serve bottles for your water, ride your bikes around, and do what you can. So that's it for today. And thanks very much to you, Bryan, for spending some time with us.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
Okay, and last, I guess, how can people get a hold of you?
Yeah, MiiR.com, MiiR.com, or on Instagram is kind of our preferred method of social communication. So we're just at MiiR on Instagram. We have our flagship store in Seattle, Washington, where we have 20 beers on tap, a full espresso bar, and a co-working space. So kind of a new spin on retail. If you're in the Seattle area, we'd love for you to come check it out, say hi, grab a coffee or a beer, and hang out.
Holy smokes, I need to come visit, man. That sounds great.
You do.
Okay. Thanks, Bryan.
Yeah, thank you.